Welcome to Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. My name is Dov Barron. I'm your host. I'm the founder of Full Monty Leadership. If you want to find out more about Full Monty Leadership, you can go to fullmontyleadership.com, just like the movie, fullmontyleadership.com. If you're just joining us for the very first time, thank you. Good to have you here. Maybe you found us through the Mind Mastery podcast or through the Full Monty Leadership radio show. And of course, you're a regular listener. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. We love it when you go to iTunes and leave your reviews and comments on there too. Well, today we have a wonderful guest, as always. Mr. Nick Boothman is our guest today. He is a speaker and author, referred to as, the modern day Dale Carnegie with a bit more sense of humor. He's been a speaker for many, many years, but this is actually his second career. He had a full-blown career before that as a rock and roll star. Well, no, let me rephrase that. He started off as a fashion photographer, a part-time rock and roll star, and he's also a fellow Englishman just up the road from where I was from, and also been gone about as long as I have. So we're more of something else than we are where we were originally born. And so welcome, Mr. Nick Boothman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The actual quote from the New York Times was, Dale Carnegie for a rushed era.
For a rushed era.
Dale Carnegie for a rushed era.
But because I believe it was Gordon who said that Dale Carnegie with a sense of humor.
Well, I never knew Dale Carnegie, but the thing is, he wrote a great book in 1936. But times have changed.
Yes.
We are not inherently respectful of each other anymore, and people don't have the time to build relationships slowly. So that's right why they say Dale Carnegie for a rushed era.
Right. So let's sort of go back in time, because you said you were a fashion photographer. How old were you when you became a fashion photographer?
I was I was 21.
21. You started out as a fashion photographer, and you had a lot of success at that, right?
Well, I had been singing in a rock and roll band in Portugal for 6 years, and then I found myself in Cape Town, South Africa, with a baby and my first wife, and so I had to get a job. Excuse me. So I found myself a job selling advertising space for the Cape Times, the biggest morning newspaper in South Africa. At the end of the first week, the advertising manager came into the advertising reps room and said, "I want to volunteer." I said, "I will volunteer for anything," for many reasons, the least of which was that it was like working in an ashtray. Everybody in there smoked, and it was horrible. I went into the ad manager's office, and he said, "I need you to go out and do something. We produce a fashion supplement twice a year." He took out this big, large, broadsheet fashion supplement, which is what newspapers were back then. And he said, "Look, we want you to find out why the advertisers don't like it, because we've done it for years now and they don't advertise in it." I said, "I can tell you right now what's wrong with it. The photographs are terrible. I could take better pictures than that." He said, "Oh, really? Hang on." So he went and picked up the phone and he phoned somebody. It turns out it was the fashion editor. He came back and said, "Okay, you're on." I said, "Okay, fine." So I walked out the room and thought, what am I going to do now? I know nothing about photography. I don't own a camera. What shall I do? So I thought, well, I have to do this. I have to get out of that crappy office. And so I rented a photographer, an English guy, a guy from the north of England who was in South Africa, and did the pictures. And in the end, the pictures came out in the paper with my name on, photographed by Nick Boothman.
But you hadn't actually photographed them?
No, I told them what to do. I said,
fabulous.
You did this, you did that, put some makeup on, you got it in focus, etc. No. I directed it.
You were the director, yeah.
Before. But the point is, they came out with my name on it. Within the following week, I get a phone call from a guy. He said, "My name is Sidney Baker. I'm the fashion editor of Fair Lady magazine, which was the biggest women's magazine in English language in South Africa. Yeah. We'd like to do a shoot for us, a spread for us, because I saw what you did in the Cape Times." I thought, what am I going to do now? If I tell him I didn't take them, they might think I'm lying. So I said, "Well, I'm really busy." And he said, "Well, we shoot 3 months ahead, so I'm sure we can make it fit." And then I thought, "And I'm really expensive." And then he said, but get this, at the time I was earning 65 Rand a week. Now, it doesn't matter what a Rand was, but it was way less than minimum wage because I just had to get a job. So I said, "I'll work for anything." It was peanuts. He said, "Well, we're not the best payers in the world, but we want you to shoot 8 pages and we pay 300 Rand a page." I had this sort of flash thing. That sounds like a year's wages for a day's work. So I did it. Anyway, I did it. I bought a cheap used camera and I got the best assistant. And it led to a 25-year career in photography, shooting all over the world. I shot for Vogue. I shot for, you name all the big clients all over the world. But you know what? It's because, when human beings have to do something, you can do it. There's all the difference in the world between wanting to do something and having it. I had to do that job. The same way that I had to write my first book because my speaking career was going nowhere when I decided to become a speaker.
We've always said that desperation is the mother of invention. I mean, it's like, got to do it.
Well, look, I'm sure half these people in leaky boats going from Syria to Italy don't want to go to Italy. They have to go to Italy.
Exactly.
Great interview the other day. Charlie Rose interviewing Al Pacino, and he said to Al Pacino, your whole career you've had these amazing acting jobs. How come other actors wanted them, but you got them? He said, I get asked that all the time. He said, but it's because I didn't want them. I had to have them. And that's a huge distinction. All these people that go out with their visioning and their goals and their dreams, etc. You know what? It's all right, but it's not half as powerful as finding yourself in a position where you have to have something. Because your inner warrior, your inner hero, your inner tiger comes out, and you are absolutely unstoppable.
I fully agree with you. I've taught for years that, because I obviously also am a speaker, and one of the things I've said for years is, it's wonderful to have a goal. It's great, and you've got to look towards that goal, and you've got to create that. You've got to see that. You've got to feel it. You got to hear everything about. You've got to get connected with it in every possible sense that you possibly can. But let me tell you, two things will move you: pleasure, which is moving towards the goal, and pain. And if you keep the fire on your ass, which is that sense of, well, I've got to have this. I don't have there isn't another option. As I was saying, I was actually interviewing Ken Dunn last week, and one of the things I said to him is, a plan B is plan A with adjustments.
That's right.
That's it. And that's just like the fire on your butt. And you're absolutely right. When you get to that place of, I've just got to do this, there isn't another option, I think that moves people to a resource within themselves that they didn't know they have. And it's interesting in human beings, and I'm sure you know this because you talk a lot about with your book stuff, is that as soon as we move away from that feeling, as soon as it gets like, well, I don't really need it that bad, the desire starts to fade, and with it, the fuel. And so it's like, well, there's a good film on tonight.
Yeah, well, most people fail in life because they're slightly comfortable. You have to, if you want to figure out, if people watching this want to figure out, and I'm sure you probably already told them how to get in a position where you have to have something, you have to burn bridges. Absolutely. You have to burn a bridge. When I went from being a very successful photographer, fashion photographer, seriously successful, I have 5 children, and I was writing a book, but I wasn't doing it well enough. One day when my wife was away, I took my cameras, my Hasselblads were insured for $35,000. I went and found out what a laptop would cost because I didn't have one. And I went downtown Toronto, went into a store. In fact, it was one of my assistants that worked. I said, I want to sell my cameras. Nick, how much? I said, I want $1,800. That's what a laptop costs. I said, Nick, you're crazy. This prism is worth more than that. We'll put them in the window. And I said, no, I want the money now. So I burnt that bridge. Because I was always getting people saying, oh, Nick, come and do a fashion shoot. No, I'm a writer. But I needed the money. I burnt the bridge big time. So I had no option but to go ahead. Burning bridges is as powerful, as you just pointed out, as powerful or more powerful than having visions and goals. Yeah. Burn some bridges.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, but it's great advice, but you and I both know, and I've burned a lot of bridges, and I know, even from what you're saying, you have too. But that is so much easier said than done for somebody watching this who says, I really want it, and for me, it's like, what do I have to do to help you have no other options? What do I have to? Because there's always some other option. Yeah. As you said, I truly believe that stuck is just a version of comfortable, and you're not going to really go there.
Slightly comfortable.
Yeah, just like whatever it is. And the thing is that slightly comfortable is my reframe of that is that it's familiar, meaning it can suck, but you are familiar with this level of suckage, and so you just maybe I can tolerate it. One of the great flaws when I was leaving the UK when I was a kid, and I remember sitting in the pub with my mates and complaining, and they were all complaining. And then when I said I'm going to go, all my mates sat around and said, it's not that bad. And that it's not that bad is fatal.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Some of us do it and some of us don't do it. You know, you talk about Ken Dunn. I know for a fact he's burnt bridges, and and there's nobody that's got to the top that hasn't done it, that can't look back and say, if I hadn't burned that bridge, it would have. No, nobody. It's all about burning. It's about differentiation and burning bridges. You have to differentiate yourself from other people, and you have to burn bridges and keep going. But it has to come from your heart. So I've learned it's quite a good idea to figure out exactly what exactly are you really good at in your life. And I stopped and asked myself that after a successful career. And I said, what have I really been good at in my life? And it suddenly, actually what came to me was a memory of the teacher in school saying, trying to explain Pythagoras' theorem and the square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum. And everyone's looking at it. And I said, why don't you just say the hypotenuse is like a ladder leaning against a wall? And the teacher said, Nicky Boothman, go and stand in the corridor. I told you not to do that. And I suddenly realized that's the only thing I've ever been any good at, is making complicated things sound simple and interesting. That's when I stopped being a photographer. That's when I wrote books like these, which have sold over, each of them, more than 2 million, and they're all in more than 30 languages, because I'm making, this is a complicated concept. This is a complicated concept, but we make them sound really simple and interesting. And that's what you do. You actually, I've never heard you speak, but I'm guessing, and I can sense it, you dispense wisdom. What is wisdom? Simple. There's a lovely phrase in Taoism which says, in the pursuit of knowledge, every day something must be added. In the pursuit of wisdom, every day something must be discarded. Well, you have added a lot to the point where you can now start discarding and say, you know what, all that huge pile over there, I can sum up like that. That's why what you do is valuable. You turn knowledge into wisdom, but you can't do that without first accumulating the knowledge.
But that's it. So I think that's a really important point for our viewers, our listeners to pay attention to. And that is this. I believe that there are, when it comes to knowledge, there are two phases. And there's the accumulation of, where you're consuming, and then there's the dispensing with. You know, and I always said that I'm an immersive personality. I traveled and studied many different philosophies and different religions and all those things. And when I was studying Buddhism, people thought I was a Buddhist. When I was studying Kabbalah, people thought I was going to become an Orthodox Jew. When I was studying Gnostic Christianity, people thought I was going to, all those things. But the truth is, I dive in, and what sticks is me. And I think that that's the point. You filter through yourself, and then you bring what it is that works for you to the world. And that's all we ever do, is we offer. Nothing more. As you say yourself, I've seen in your videos, we're sharing our experience of the world in our easiest way for us to communicate it to the world, and hopefully we're good at that communication. And I know that is one of the things that you point out in your books. Just tell us a little bit about the first book, which is it's actually the most latest book. Let me say that: How to Convince People in 90 Seconds or Less. That's
Convince Them was my second book.
Yeah.
Which originally had the title, because I wrote How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less, and it became an immediate hit, huge. Then my publisher wanted another book that said, you can't write a relationship book. So I wrote a book called How to Connect in Business in 90 Seconds or Less, which was gigantic. In fact, it's been licensed for training videos all over the world. But the funny thing is, we could never figure out why, when my books, because I don't know if you know, I'm sure you know how foreign rights are sold for books. Your publisher takes them to the Frankfurt Book Fair, and publishers from all over the world bid on them. They buy the rights, they take them away, they translate them, they package them, they put them out. With my books in French, with my first book in French, How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less, the French called it Tout se joue en moins de 2 minutes. It all happens in less than 2 minutes, because 90 in French is ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous word, 90. Anyway, so when my second book came out, How to Connect in Business, the French called it Convaincre en moins de 2 minutes. Convince them in less than 2 minutes. However, we didn't know, to this day, we don't know why, but it was in the top 5 best-selling non-fiction books in all of France for 10 months.
Wow.
Get this. It was the number 2 sports book, the number 4 medical book, number 1 couples book, and it was a business book.
That's fabulous.
And it's still, you go look on Amazon in France today, it's still up there in the top 100 books. It's
That's
incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, it just shows you that, how it works, and it shows you how In the book, I'm traveling around now telling people how to write a book that actually sells. The importance of a title. It's
Yeah.
all the title. All of it.
Yes. So I know you've just put together another book on exactly that, haven't you?
I had all the time. I had people coming up all the time saying, Nick, how can I write a book that actually sells? Because you know what? Everyone's writing books. There were 1 million books published in the US last year. 1 million books published.
And the average person, just so everybody knows this, we all have this. We've all heard this thing about you've all got a book inside of you. Well, guess what? You might have, but here's the news: of the people who publish books, on average, most people don't sell more than 300, and actually they don't sell them. They just know 300 people, and they've given them away. So it's not really a big deal. And the easiest thing in the world is writing the book. Not truly, but in comparison with everything else you have to do, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Look, the deal is this, is that, in fact, it's funny, I took the same concept, because I have a book, my favorite book, is called How to Make Someone Fall in Love with You in 90 Minutes or Less. And to write all my books, they're all based on modeling excellence. To write the business book, we looked at 700 people who could connect, engender trust and respect, neutralize the fight or flight response, find common ground, and begin to put their ideas top of mind in other people in 90 seconds or less. And incidentally, Kevin O'Leary told me he went back and checked, and every single person that got a deal on Dragon's Den was able to connect and articulate their business idea in less than 90 seconds. Every one of them.
Nicely done.
The book is all about a lot of that. But for my love book, we looked at 2,400 couples who've been together for more than 20 years, who are still actively nuts about each other, to find out what's in them. But one of the things we found, it's a big no-brainer, was that falling in love and staying in love are completely separate events. But if you can get the staying in love elements in place before you fall in love, then your chances go through the roof. Well, we found the same thing with writing a book. Writing a book and selling a book are completely separate events. But if you can get the elements of a saleable book in place before you write it, or even at least before you publish it, then your chances of success go through the roof. And they have got absolutely, really nothing to do with writing a book, because most authors, I guarantee, 99.999% of new authors don't even know who their primary audience for their book is. They think if they're writing a book about repairing kitchens, it's guys who want to repair kitchens. They think if it's a book, and I've seen this book, a book about chronic hemorrhoids, it's people with chronic hemorrhoids. Yeah, somebody wrote that book. But the truth is, if anybody is listening right now and they're writing a book, let me tell you this. The primary audience for your book is the book reviewers, magazine editors, TV segment producers, and the people that put the books on the shelves in the store. Because if they don't write about your book, no one will know you've written a book.
Say it again. That was really important. Say it again for us. That's really, really important, Nick.
Writing a book, the people you're writing for are not who you think your primary audience is. That's actually your third audience. The first audience is the book reviewers, TV segment producers, magazine editors, book bloggers these days, and anybody else who influences, anybody else who influences lots of people. Because if you don't write about my book, or you don't put me on Good Morning America, which I've been on tons of times, I've done all the networks tons of times, but if I didn't go on there, my books wouldn't sell. It's that simple.
So there's another piece there, because that's really important, and I think that's a piece that almost everybody misses.
Yeah, and the second audience, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's good.
But I'm enthusiastic. The second audience is actually the people who put the books on the shelves in the stores. A lot of people bring out books, and there are self-help or how-to books or non-fiction books. They look at the book and they think, I don't know where to put this book.
Right.
If it has the word business in it, say, fine, that goes in the business department. If it's got love in it, that goes in the love department. But if it's got some fancy dumbass title, I see all the time people say, I've got this amazing title, I wonder why my book's not selling. Well, first of all, no one knows where to put it. Secondly, that book has been written 25,000 times last year. Yeah. But some people are stubborn.
So I agree with everything you said, because I'm on my 7th book, my last one. So, and I went to BEA in 2000, Book Expo America in 2000, and was shocked to discover what the publishing industry really is, because it isn't what you think it is, folks. It's a very different world. Publishers publish, you sell. That's all they do. So the thing is that it's interesting, because you brought up something I want to see if we can help people a little more. Because I know we've got lots of new authors who listen and watch. You talked about who the primary audience was, the book reviewers, etc., the TV segments. But the other piece, and and I hear this all the time. The other piece is, how the heck do you get it to those people? How do you get your book to be read by a TV segment person? How do you get to the bloggers? How do you get to whoever it is, those people of influence, to write about your book?
I understand. The first thing you have to do is you have to have a killer title. If you don't have a look, I'll tell you, this is a true story. When I first came up with the idea for my book, How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less, I was originally going to call it The Magic of Instant Rapport. Awful. Then one day it occurred to me, anyway, I came up with the title. I had met socially, I was still taking pictures then, but I wanted to do it because I'm crazy about human potential. I saw people with incredible potential going nowhere because they had no people skills. Right. That's why I wanted to write the book. So then I had met socially for a minute a Toronto publisher called Jane Somerville House Books. When I came up with the idea for the book, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and talk to her about it. Phoned her up. She was very polite. Said, remember you met me? I said, yeah, come on down. I went into her office. She said, we sat down. How are you? Said, so what's your book called? I said, How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. She didn't say a word. She got up and said, I'll be back in a second. In about 2 minutes, she came back with a guy. And she said, this is my acquisitions editor. We'd like to buy the world rights.
Wow.
And I said, I haven't written it yet. And she said, don't worry about that. We can take care of that. And actually, because I didn't know the business, they got a ghostwriter. It was a disaster. But they gave me, on the spot, a contract and an advance. Right there and then.
For a title.
For a title. And in the end, she came back after about a year when the ghost did it. And it was awful, awful, awful. She said, I'm so sorry about what's happened. You can have the rights back and you can keep the advance. That's on a title. So if anyone thinks, and why is that important? It's the old thing. It's all about first impressions. If you can imagine, let's say New York Times, any of these people, all my books have all been reviewed, over half a page in the New York Times. New York Times, Houston Chronicle, Washington Post, all of these guys. Okay, they get, by the time the books have been sorted, they probably end up with, I don't know, 200 books a day to go through. Yep. Because their assistants kicked the other 700 out and the rest didn't even get there. Then they get them on the desk, they go, next, next, next. Then they go, who's that cheeky bastard? How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds. But it stopped.
Yes.
And it goes on that side. So it's a title, but a killer title has to have a definable benefit for a definable market. If it's not in the title, it won't sell. It's that simple.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with somebody very recently who gave me an argument, and I think you'll agree with me. Let's see where it goes. This person said to me, because I'd said the same thing, if I don't stop at that title, and stopping at the title should, it's okay for it to have shock value. It's okay for it to evoke curiosity, but it's got to have some kind of benefit in it right away.
Yeah.
And they said, well, okay. Well, I can name a book that did really well that had a title that didn't work. And I said, what was it? And they said, Jab, 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 Right Hook, Gary Vaynerchuk. I said, fantastic book, fantastic author. Now do you know why it was a success? And they said, no. I said, because it's Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a marketing machine, and so he can put out books that says fart. And that's the name of the title, and people will buy it because it's okay if you've established yourself. But if you're new, I think you're absolutely right. You've got to have something that stops them in the grip. And for me, I think new, so I'm on my 7th book. My next book will be a new book, meaning I'm not big enough in the world for me to be known by like Gary is known. So my title still has to have that. Yeah,
well, absolutely. And actually, I'd be very interested to know how many books he has sold. Because, even if you're even if you've got all of social media going for you, my publisher, I've done a book with Ken Dunn now, but my publisher is Workman. Workman is the dream publisher of any author for many reasons, not the least of which they have 28 full-time publicists on staff.
Wow.
Promoting your book forever. My first book came out 15 years ago. It's still selling as many today as it was then. So when I talk to authors, I'm saying, this is not a book about coming out and making a big splash on social media until the next big splash comes out 4 days from now. This is a book that sells over and over and over and year after year after year after year. That's what is a saleable book. I'd be very interested to know how the jab, jab, jab done, whatever. But going back to your point, If Suzanne Summers brought out a book about cooking souffles whilst doing brain surgery, people would buy it because she's famous.
Yeah,
and
celebrity.
The North American market is hooked on that stuff.
Celebrity.
Celebrities. But
Yeah.
the book won't get read, and it will get given to somebody else. But it sells.
Yeah. And that's different. I mean, like you just said, 15 years and your book is still selling really well.
Really well.
That is, that's, to say that's rare is a gross understatement.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Look, my royalties go up every year, and my percentage has gone down because when it went from hardcover to softcover, my percentage went down. People. I had a discussion with somebody who you know very well, who introduced us, saying, I'd rather get at 90% of publish it myself and get 90% than do what I get 6% royalty. That's all on my book. But I would rather have 6% of 2 million books than 95% of 300 books.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, but that's the difference. So now we're back at that same thing, which is getting the books out there. Because I would want 90% of 300 books if that's all that's going to be sold on either end. And the challenge is working, as you said, working with a publisher who actually gets you out there. That's a whole other deal. Because I've also been offered deals and said no because I'm no because I know people who work with that publishing house. Nothing's going to happen.
Sure, of course not. Okay, you have to become media savvy yourself. When How to Make People Like You came out, I had this is before I had my American publisher. And because another way to a publisher is to let them see what you've already done.
Of course,
as
platform,
self-promotion. But I knew a model whose boyfriend was something or other, can't remember now, on breakfast television here in Toronto. I said, look, get me on the show. I'm doing this book called How to Make People Like You, and I will go into any school that gets together kids who are looking for a job, and I'll tell them how to ace jobs and land jobs. So they put me on the show, and I made an offer, and within by the end of the following day, we had 1,400 kids from 9 schools, and I went into those schools. And I gave them 1 hour about how to ace a job and psych people out who were interviewing them. Well, the thing is, not only did these schools see me on TV, but a whole bunch of other people saw me on TV. So you have to do it. You have to get up and get out. And I'll tell you something else, although in your case it's not true. But in this course I'm doing for authors, I tell them that you have to go out within 30 days and give 3 speeches about your subject. There's nothing like knowing your topic than having to give a speech. I don't care if it's to your kids' kindergarten teachers, or if it's to the Boy Scouts, or if that exists anymore, or to the Rotary. It doesn't matter, or to your friends. If you can put a 15-minute speech together, you know your topic 1,000 times better than you did before, and you know how to present it. And you know what? You're nodding. We know. We're talking the same language.
Absolutely. One of my companies, I have the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership, in which we teach people how to present. And one of the things I say to them all the time is, you want to be a great speaker? And they go, yeah. I go, get out and speak.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to use all the strategies I've taught you. You can use all the formula I've taught you. You can do all the things I've taught you. You can use the NLP. You can do everything I've taught you. But the bottom line is, if you're sitting at home, you're not going to be a great speaker. You've got to get out and speak. And so initially that means speak for free to anybody who will listen. That's it. But you're right, because what it does is it drills home your subject. And this is why, I think that the world of speaking has changed dramatically. And I speak a lot about that too, in that I think that the traditional keynote is dead in the water, because for a lot of speakers, it was knowing the words to say and going out and rehearsing that. And if somebody threw a question at them, they were dead in the water. Now you have got to know your subject. You've got to be able to think on your feet, and people are throwing things at you, and you've got to be interactive. So I think, again, you're absolutely right. Get out there, speak about your subject, get your presentation down, but have tons of flexibility because you know your subject.
Yeah, you're bang on, because the thing is, I think if you're writing a book or being a speaker, you have to be the world's biggest expert, even if it's in your own mind. You absolutely have to. It is your job to devour and digest. You have to be. You have to know more than, you know what? People come to my workshop and they're writing a book and say, what are you writing about? Let's say it's usually I want to help other women, or I want to help other guys. forget it. You can tell you haven't helped yourself yet. I can tell by looking at you. But let's say let's say it's simple. I want to show people how to collect their accounts receivables. Just let's say it's that.
Yeah.
Then I say, and okay, and they've been writing this book for 6 months. And I say to them this: who is the biggest expert in the world on that subject? And they'll go, I don't know. Who is the biggest expert in North America? I don't know. Or they'll say, me,
Yeah.
You. Or, okay, who's the biggest expert in your community? I don't know. What's the best book on the subject in the world? I don't know. You don't know your competition and you're writing a book? Forget it. It's unbelievable that people can do this. They can write a book and they don't know who their competition is. Because, if just in case you did write a great book, it's good. It's definitely been written. I don't care what anyone's writing. It's been written. All you can give it is a fresh approach.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, you talk about Dale Carnegie. The book I wrote has been written. Dale Carnegie wrote it, and it sold 18 million copies. But I had to distinguish myself, so I put a time factor in there and a spin on it, and it's catching up.
Worked out okay.
Yeah. So but it's the same with topics, with speaking topics. People, why are you different? No, it's different. I said at the beginning, it's differentiation. Why are you different than the guy next to you? I live on a farm. I'm in my farm right now. Even though it looks like this is my studio, but I'm in a farm right now. I live on a farm, and we have a great big farm kitchen, which a couple of years ago we were going to renovate. And there is a kitchen manufacturing company 10 miles from here down the road, down the 401. So I went in there one day, and the guy showed me everything. At the end, I said, "Okay, I like what I said. Why should I do business with your company?" He said, "Well, why not?" So I walked out, right? But hang on, though. People do laugh. And I just spoke to the Remax World Convention in Vienna, and the people in the front, there were, I don't know, 4,000 people, they were laughing. And I walked to them and said, "Okay, fine, why should I do business with your company?" She said, "Well, because you can trust us." I said, "Your competition will say that." "Well, because we've got a big network." "Your competition will say that." It is about differentiation.
Absolutely.
Why are you different? In other words, the question is, why should I buy your book?
Yeah.
Or why should I hire you? Why should I marry you?
Mm-hmm.
Why should I do business with you? This is a really simple thing that you look at people for who life is a struggle and who life is a success. Strugglers can't answer that question, and a lot of successful people can't answer that question either. But it is fundamental. The fundamental of any successful business in a culture of innovation is differentiation.
So,
and you know that.
So because I couldn't agree more with you. Give our listener, our viewers, a tip in a way to differentiate themselves, because as you said, it's much of a muchness. Whatever it is you're doing. I mean, I speak about leadership. I mean, that's the worst thing in the world, because every man and his dog speaks about leadership, and there's no way to. So I can never say that, and people say, "Well, no, that's not it. That's the broad umbrella. You've got to differentiate." Give our listeners, our viewers, a clue, a tip, something that they can go, "Okay, this is a way for me to differentiate myself. I can go home. I can write this out. I can get clear on it. Whatever it is."
Okay, I will give them a bit of solid gold. Before that, though, so I have a speech on leading, and I differentiated my title. My speech is called "Leading is Easy. You're probably just trying too hard."
I saw that. That's a great title.
Leading is easy. Of course, it's easy once you get it right. But here's how you differentiate. And this is solid gold, and I give this in my business talks. It's a 3-part phrase. And it begins like this. You should write this down, folks.
I'm writing it down. Follow my lead.
Okay. You know how, ... Next line. Well, I, or /we, ... So you / they, ... Okay? Then you fill in the blanks. For example, "Hey, Nick, what do you do?" You know how some people have trouble connecting and communicating? That's the first line. They go, "Yeah, of course, yeah. I haven't said, everybody. No, some people." Well, I write books and give speeches which are incredibly simple, so they can have confidence and find more opportunities. I have just told you every single thing I do, who I do it for, why it's different, in a way that an 8-year-old could understand it. It's not a pitch, there's no jargon, nothing. And it's irresistible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's differentiates.
That's great. That's a great tip. Well, it's been great having you here, Nick. You've given us a lot of tips, a lot of great insights, a lot of things to work with. Give us the name of your books again.
How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. Convince Them in 90 Seconds or Less. How to Make Someone Fall in Love with You in 90 Minutes or Less. And this will be out in November, called How to Write a Saleable Book in 10-Minute Bursts of Madness.
10-minute bursts of madness?
Yeah, you write. You do automatic writing in 10-minute bursts. You don't stop writing.
Right.
Times per chapter.
I don't know if I can get my 10 minutes of I don't know if I can get my madness down to 10 minutes. And what's the best way for people to find out about you or your presentations or your books?
Nick@nicholasboothman.com, or Google, or buy my books on Amazon. Actually, buy my books at your local bookstore first.
Yes.
And then go online.
Fabulous. Well, it's been great having you here. Thank you. It's been so great. And so, best website for you is your name?
Yeah, nicholasboothman.com.
nicholasboothman.com. Get over there. We're going to post all that. We'll make sure we put all the links to connect with Nick in any way that you can. Make sure you reach out to him if you're looking for a speaker. Obviously, he's a great man for that. And make sure you go to his site. I've been to his site. Lots of great stuff on there, including great videos, ways for you to look at what it is that he does. Fabulous having you here. Thank you so much.
My great pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely pleasure. And thanks to you, listener, viewer, for tuning in today. Again, if you want to find out more about me, Dov Baron, you go to fullmontyleadership.com, where you can find out all about my presentations, working with me as your mentor, or any of the speeches, presentations that we do. Again, thank you for joining us on the show today, and thank you for sharing the show with everyone you know. Until next time, live with courage and live with curiosity. Curiosity. Yummy. Till next time.